Okay, in today's video, what we're going to talk about today is some common English mistakes that my students make. Now, these are mistakes that happen all the time, so I suspect that these are things that you were taught very early on in English, and because everybody's taught the same thing, nobody corrects anybody, and so I want to take a moment as a native English speaker to help the people to understand some of these common mistakes so that they stop making them and they start using English as much as possible in the correct way. And don't worry about making mistakes. We all make mistakes. Even native speakers make mistakes when they're speaking English. And so this is to help you to minimize the number of mistakes that you make. So the first mistake is the word till versus the word till. Now, this is really one of spelling because they're homonyms. They sound the exact same. The only difference is the way they're spelled. You'll see T-I-L-L versus apostrophe T-I-L. So T-I-L-L, this is something that a lot of students think means until, but it does not. It is a verb which means to dig up land or to prepare land to plant crops like corn and things like that. It can also be a noun. A till is a box that's used to hold money, or sometimes we use it to describe a cash register like in a supermarket. Till with an apostrophe and only one L is short for until. Now, as you probably would have learned in English before, when we remove letters, we put in this little apostrophe. And so we take out the UN and we put the apostrophe, and so we can just say till, like, I will wait for you till noon, meaning I will wait for you until noon. Some people will write apostrophe T-I-L-L. This is not a word at all, so don't ever do that. This would be that there's some letters that you've taken out, and there's really not any word, at least that I know of, that's like that. So when you're saying until, you can use apostrophe T-I-L, but it's really better just to say until. Just use the whole word so there's no confusion. But definitely don't say till, T-I-L-L, or don't write till, meaning until. Okay, another confusing point is officer versus office worker. Very often when I will ask people, what do your parents do? And they will say, my father is an officer. And I'll say, oh, an officer. And I think must be very important because an officer is someone with authority, with real power. And the word comes from the word official. So think about chief executive officer or chief financial officer or police officer. When we see police officers, we see them usually outside, perhaps in traffic or perhaps walking down the street, but they're out in society because they have power. They are the legal representation of the government. They don't work in an office, but they are officers. So an office worker is somebody who works in an office. It's about where they work. So anybody can be an office worker if they work in an office. If you're not an office worker, then maybe you work outside the office. And an office worker specifically means worker, right? So non-manager, because a worker is somebody who does not manage anybody, and a manager is someone who does manage people. Now, generally, when we think of managers, we think of people managing people in an office. But if you're describing somebody who works in an office, you should not describe them as an officer. You should describe them as an office worker. Now, another question that confuses a lot of students is, what is nước chanh? So this is, of course, a very common Vietnamese drink. It is a delicious drink. What is it? What is nước chanh? We need to understand what is the difference between a lemon and a lime. These are two completely different fruits. A lemon looks like this, and a lime looks like this. They have different shapes. A lime is basically round. A lemon is oblong, and it has these bumps on the side. A lemon is yellow. A lime is green. They have different tastes. And so many Vietnamese people learn that nước chanh means lemon juice. But you can look and you can see that the lemon is yellow and the lime is green, and you know that a chang is green because it's a lime. So we cannot say lemon juice when it comes from a lime. Now, at this point, many students will say, then it's lime juice, but it's not juice either, because there's juice and then there's aid. Juice is what you get when you squeeze a fruit. For example, if you take an orange, you cut the orange, you squeeze the orange, and the liquid drips from the orange into a glass, and then you drink that. That is juice. But you don't do that with a lime. You don't cut a lime, squeeze it into a glass, and then drink it just the way it came out of the fruit. You mix it with water and sugar, because otherwise the taste is too strong. So when you mix the juice with water or sugar, then you end up with aid. So we have lemonade or limeade. So nước chanh is limeade. It is not lemon juice because it does not come from a lemon, and it is not juice. So limeade. And then most versus almost. Now these can be a bit confusing, but they're not the same, and they're not different degrees of the same. They're really very different things. And so I want to make sure everybody understands this. Most simply means more than half. That's it. So we would say most people eat meat, for example. And it's simply like this. So if the red area in this pie chart represents people who eat meat, then most, more than half. It could be 51%, it could be 99.99%, but it's most. Most means more than half. That is all it means. It does not mean more or different from that. Almost means it's really close to some point. So we need to have some point here. So, for example, here, if you see this green chart, we could say almost everyone wants to speak English better, or almost nobody speaks more than 5 languages, or almost 75% of students want to improve their learning. This is almost. So if we say almost 75% of students, then we're really saying something like, let's say 73%, 74%, something that's really close to that point of 75% of students. If we say almost everyone wants to speak English better, then it means 90%, 95%. It's really close to 100%. Because everyone would be 100%. Almost nobody means that it's very close to 0. So almost nobody speaks more than 5 languages, so it's maybe 1% of people, some very small number. But following almost, you're going to have some point that you're referring to. After most, you're usually going to have some noun. Almost, you will not have just some noun. Like you would never hear almost people. That does not make any sense at all. You cannot say almost people. You can say almost all people, but you have to have that all there. But you could not say most all people. That also doesn't make sense. So we use most and we use almost in very, very different ways. That's it. Those are definitely the most common mistakes in English, and I hope everybody can improve your English from here.